What up, fight world? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Back in my segment, The Rundown. If you are new to the channel, what The Rundown is where I give you a condensed, blow by blow, some quick things happening in boxing. I don't have to make a bunch of videos. You don't have to click on a bunch of videos. And I try to give you the latest and greatest and some bullet points. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, as far as PBC is kicking some of y'all asses. Like, there's a lot of detractors from the jump. They said, this will never work. PBC is going to suck, and Al Heyman, he's going to ruin boxing. I've enjoyed myself with the PBC. Now, don't get me wrong, top rank, golden boy. I watch everybody's cards. But PBC is consistently putting boxing on. Like, it's frequent. I'm talking about last night, I just watched what, to me, could be a nominee for Fighter of the Year. And that was on a Friday. Now, when I used to watch ESPN Friday Night Fights, no disrespect, but they would really be low caliber matchups. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where you might know one guy, but you don't really know anything about this guy. Now, don't get me wrong. Even with the Marco Hook, I don't know if it's Hook or Huck, but they were saying Hook. So I'm going to say it like fuck with the H. Hook. The Marco Hook. I knew him. I knew Roy Jones was trying to get a fight. He had, I guess, the longest reigning cruiserweight title defense, and he was about to set history with this particular performance if he were to win. And it was a come from behind upset. I really, truthfully, to be honest, didn't know much about Glowowski, but he did his thing. I mean, he got floored in the 5th round, and it seemed almost like a long count. He used pretty much all of the count, even if it wasn't a long count. I mean, he was hurt, and he barely got up, but through grit and determination, the Polish fighter, he got back up to his feet, and he even started doing pretty good in the round where he was hurt. He started instantly throwing back. So I was like, wow, even if he loses the fight, I'm checking for this dude. You know what I mean? Because just seeing that alone was impressive. And then out of nowhere in the 11th round, Marco Hook started pulling straight back out, got caught, and ended up getting finished and stopped in that round. So I mean, PBC, they're doing their thing. Like I said, this wasn't a match I was hyped about or knew much about, but I watched it, and it was a great fight. As main event, I didn't even do a video, as you guys know. I didn't do Tarver Cunningham. That was kind of boring to me. It really, the Hook versus Glowowski fight should have been the main event had they known it was going to be how it was. Tarver Cunningham, I mean, it was a split majority draw or whatever. And that's fine with me. I thought Tarver edged it, but based on the performance, I didn't really care who won, to be honest, because no one really went for broke. No one really created that clear-cut, concise separation, in my opinion. Tarver, he was landing more effective, cleaner work, but it was far and few between, especially early, and he looked slow, and he was just trying to time. It looked like he was looking for one big shot, but he was staying out of the way to some things. Cunningham, he just didn't look. He was active, but he didn't really land nothing of note on a 46-year-old. So that fight was kind of lame, or whatever you want to call it. But to the people, the detractors that are going to keep saying, no, fuck PBC, stop watching it. Simple. You know what I mean? If you hate it, that's the thing I never understood about boxing fans. The things that they claim to hate, they talk about more than anything else. Don't watch PBC. That's the best way to affect Al Heyman. Stop watching it. And the reason I know you guys watch it is because when I do my post-fights for Danny Garcia, Paulie Malignaggi, you're like, oh, it's a mismatch, and this is a dumb fight, Keith Thurman versus Collazo, and all these other fights. People, there's backlash, and they're saying they hate it, and Al Heyman's ruining boxing. But every time I do a post-fight, guess who's there? All in the comments, all in the video, leaving comments like, yeah, Danny Garcia, da-da-da, he did this, and Keith Thurman got exposed. So obviously you're paying attention. Simple. Boxing fans, the stuff you claim to hate, if you really hate it that much, stop watching it. Speaking of PBC, let's get into the rundown. Errol Spence Jr., one of the hot commodities and prospects at 147. A lot of people have high hopes, including Floyd Mayweather and Freddie Roach, for this kid. And he's going to be facing Chris Van Heerden. Now, I told you Kell Brook was rumored to possibly fight this Chris Van Helsing. I don't know much about him, but Chris Van Helsing dude, or Leonard Bundu, I did a video about that, but that turned out to be false, and it looks like Kell Brook is going to be possibly facing Diego Chavez. Now, I got to do my research on Chris Van Heerden. I heard he's pretty good, but I don't have enough data on him to make an assessment. But from the talks of it, it's a good fight and it's a step up in caliber. And then hopefully after this, if Errol Spence handles business like he has in his last couple of fights, we start getting to the better names, the bigger names. Even the guys like Josecito Lopez, he's done more than some of these other champions like the Phil LaGrecos and stuff like that. So hopefully he at least starts getting names like that. Victor Ortiz, anybody, you know what I mean? Anybody who's considered a bigger name and a step up would be good. But I like what I see from Errol Spence Jr. and it's a matter of time. You know what I mean? I got to see what his chin's like at an elite level and how does he deal with somebody who's going to throw back and not fight him scared and has more experience. So that will be taking place on the Adonis Stevenson Karpin C card. And for those who don't know who Adonis Stevenson is facing, this is the guy, Karpin C, that upset Bad Chad Dawson, which I'm not really impressed with Adonis Stevenson's schedule post Chad Dawson. Like, Tavoris Cloud was cool, but then it started, I guess maybe in his last 3 fights, that's the better way to put it. I haven't been really impressed since Fanfara maybe with Adonis' schedule. Bika's cool, but Bika, you know what I mean, had recently lost to Anthony Durrell. Just stuff like that. Karpin C, yeah, he beat Bad Chad Dawson, but to me, that wasn't Bad Chad Dawson. He looked mad sloppy and out of shape. It didn't look like the Chad Dawson that fought B-Hop or even Adonis Stevenson himself. So, whatever. To me, it's a stay busy fight in Canada, and that is going to be a PBC card, Adonis Stevenson and Karpin C. So, we'll see what Karpin C can do. Maybe I'm underestimating him because to me, I haven't really seen much of him other than I did watch the Chad Dawson fight, but from my memory, Chad Dawson had one arm in that particular fight. Something happened to his arm or shoulder, and he still did okay. And Karpin C almost barely won. So on paper, Adonis Stevenson should take care of Karpin C. And in other news, it's being said that Andre SOG Ward may be on the undercard for Cotto versus Canelo. Now, my thoughts on this at this moment is just a theory. It's just something that they're exploring. Nothing concrete. It's not a go. It's not 100%, anything like that. But my thoughts on this is great. He's a skilled fighter. He made his return June 20th against Paul Smith, got the stoppage. So let's see him back. He needs to get back active, get back in the fans' memory, and showcase his skill. And make sure he gets back onto the pound-for-pound list and really start building up massive fights. Because, like I said, Triple G versus Lemieux, there's a lot of good fights right there in boxing. So he could possibly face a guy like that, a Kovalev, better Biev, who knows? I mean, he needs to get back in the public eye. That's the first step. So anything they're willing to do to beef up the CottoCanelo card, make it worth everybody's while to fork over the money for the pay-per-view, I'm all for it. And if that entails showcasing a highly skilled fighter like Andre Ward, so be it. And I think it's a good look for Rock Nation since Cotto is with Rock Nation as well as Andre Ward. So protect your investment and really do a service to 2 of your fighters that are under your roster. So I think they can't really lose in that particular situation. Now, the biggest thing is I don't know who he'd fight, really. I mean, I can only think of maybe a Bika rematch or something. Adonis Stevenson has a fight with Karpin C. Gilberto Ramirez, he already has a fight. Kovalev's next fight is supposed to be in Russia. I don't know. So I don't know who he would fight, but hopefully they can find someone very solid. And I'm all for that idea. And then last but not least, Terence Crawford versus De'Aaron Jean. Now, this fight is not a done deal, but they're looking for an opponent for Terence Crawford. And I'm surprised Crawford is not getting more accolades and more success based on his skill level. But that just goes to show you how boxing works. If you're an Adrian Broner, even if you have 2 losses, an undefeated fighter who's showing all the skill in the world to switch stances in fight and lose 5 rounds and then come back and get a stoppage. He did that twice. I thought he was losing the Gamboa fight. He was losing the first 5-6 rounds easy to me. And then he came back, switched his style, stopped Gamboa, knocked him down 4 times if I'm not mistaken. And even in his Thomas Delorme fight, I thought he was off to a kind of a slow start, maybe trying to bait Thomas Delorme. But either way, Thomas Delorme he had more activity. So I had Terence Crawford really losing the first couple of rounds in that fight. And then he got a stoppage, I believe, in the 6th. So it's surprising that Bud Crawford's not getting more appreciation from the boxing fans. But De'Aaron Jean is a potential opponent that they may try to match him with. And it's not a horrible fight. It's not a bad fight. Not the best fight at 140. But you got to look at it. Danny Garcia left the division. That's a fight I would love to see, but he's at welterweight now. Not to mention he's with Heyman, and Crawford's with Top Rank. Then you look at Matisse's fighting Victor Postal, another good fight, but they're already booked up. You got Adrian Broner, who's already fighting Alak Verdiev. Who else is at 140? John Molina just got suspended for testing positive for a diuretic, and he's out for a couple of months, so Crawford couldn't fight someone like that. I mean, you look at it, if you're being realistic, Deary Jean is a reasonable fight. I mean, of course, you got guys like Lamont Peterson, but again, then you run into the Top Rank, Bob Arum, trying to make a fight with a person he's suing, Al Heyman thing. So realistically, not too many options. And in my opinion, what they're doing is keeping Terence Crawford his options open, putting him in a fight where it's not a pushover opponent, first of all. I don't know what people think about Deary Jean, but I mean, Lamont Peterson beat him. That's his only loss, but he's not a pushover. He has power, and even with the Lamont Peterson fight, I thought Deary Jean did better with Peterson than Danny Garcia did. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you look late, Deary Jean wasn't missing all wildly like Danny Garcia was. But anyway, Deary Jean, he's a guy that can give you rounds, and he's not like a walkover opponent where you can just underestimate him. That's for starters. I'm not talking him up. That's what I really feel. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, I think they're putting him in a fight where Terence Crawford should skill-wise beat a guy like Deary Jean on paper, but he can't underestimate him. And it will lead to a bigger fight next. Maybe the winner of Postal versus Matisse, since Matisse's with Golden Boy. Postal, I think, is with Top Rank, and a promoter out of the Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken. Something like that. But that's a fight that could be made, or even Pacquiao in a comeback fight. So to me, it makes sense. Terence Crawford, put him in a stay busy fight with a solid guy like Deary Jean, and his next fight he could fight somebody like Pacquiao possibly. They were talking about making that match, or the Matisse versus Postal winner. So I'm not anti this. I think that's a good schedule if they do something like that. Other guys out there, Ruslan Provodnikov, but he's coming off a loss. To me, I would say Deary Jean is probably a better option. I mean, Ruslan's always tough. He has a chin, but I mean, Matisse was able to beat him just purely outboxing him, causing him to reset, moving. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I wouldn't favor Ruslan Provodnikov. His best chance is just to land something so solid and hope that Terence Crawford's chin can't hold up like Matisse. But I've seen Ruslan outboxed multiple times. You know what I mean? He has multiple losses. Herrera, he lost to Chris Algieri. He lost to Lucas Matisse his last fight. You know what I mean? We've seen him outboxed. So to me, I would rather honestly see Deary Jean, who's only once beaten, and that was to an elite level fighter in Lamont Peterson. That's my opinion. That's the rundown. Let me know what you guys think of this episode of the rundown. What do you want to see next for all these fighters? What will Errol Spence do in his fight? Drop me those comments. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.